to the Arm Wrestling Pulse, a podcast where we go over all of the top posts on the arm wrestling subreddit so you can get caught up to speed with the pulse of the community. Of course, hosted by myself, Derek Smith, Chris Drummond, our special guest today. I don't know if it's special anymore. We might just call you our regular guest.
Always special, Chris. You're always special, man.
Yeah. I might amend the thumbnail, put your face on there, and say maybe Chris too. So, all right, we're going to get into it here. For those of you who don't know, the subreddit's basically a giant online forum, kind of like the old school Northeast message boards in a sense. You can post anything you want. If the community likes it, they'll hit the upvote button. If they don't like it, they'll hit the downvote button. And the way we structure this is we go over some of the most upvoted posts at the start so we get a feel for what everyone's talking about in the arm wrestling world. And if later in the show, we'll take a look at some hand-selected questions that some of the members have, typically on training. So stick around and you'll learn something about arm wrestling. You guys ready to get into it?
Yes, sir. I'm just sharing this on my YouTube. Chris, if you can share this on YouTube, that'd be awesome. And anybody watching this, if you guys could share this in your channels or share it on Facebook or share it somewhere. Appreciate the love.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. 22 episodes, man. Can't believe it. So let's get into it here. The top post. Is it going to be about Devin Laird as it has been the past 3 months? Let's find out together. Michael Todd versus Devin Laird left-handed pre-WAL time. So we got a throwback. This was posted by user Best Glazard. If you guys haven't seen this, check it out. This was at a Rogue Fitness event. I don't know how this ended up happening, but we have a Rogue Fitness branded arm wrestling table. And for those who don't know, Rogue Fitness is like one of the biggest fitness brands out there.
Wait, this wasn't at a CrossFit?
What's that?
Wasn't this? I thought this was because Travis was a commentator for CrossFit.
Yeah,
I thought that he brought out Michael Todd, and then I think there was Dave Chafee was there at some point, and Devin for some CrossFit stuff, which is sponsored by Rogue. Or was this an actual Rogue event, like a different thing?
I think it's a CrossFit event, and Rogue and CrossFit I think do work together.
Right.
Pretty good match, man. Like if you're gonna put on a exhibition match, this was a pretty good one.
Yeah, Devin looks so much younger.
Yeah.
I mean, so does Mike, but Mike doesn't have a long beard. But I mean, Yeah.
I don't pay attention to what year it is anymore. I just say how long is Michael Todd's beard, and that's kind of my gauge for whether we're in like the 2016 to 18 range. Chris, any thoughts on this match?
Yeah, I remember seeing this quite a long time ago. I think Devin was, he was pulling 225s at WAL. Maybe I don't know what year this was, like 14 or something like that. It was a long time ago. Good technical display from both guys. It's good to see.
Yeah. Was there any King's moving going on? Was this pre-King's move, Michael?
Well, so it's left hand. Michael never had a King's move on.
True. Good point. Very good point. He had a press. I think he got in there a couple times with the flop press. But yeah, interesting match. Good throwback. Thank you for the post, Best Glazard. Next up, also Devin related. So again, we're going through the most upvoted post for the week. No surprise, Devin is going to be on.
All I'm saying is this, like, even his haters have to be like, all right. Yeah, we hate every way he's won every one of those matches, but he's won damn near every one of those. Like, I mean, how much? Okay, you cannot agree with the style. You cannot be comfortable with the combat side of our sport and want to embrace the strength side. Get mad at people that do embrace the combat side more. But like that record speaks for itself. To be honest, you know what I mean? Like, can't hate that much.
So for those out of the loop, this is a Excel sheet of Devin's resume pulls since 2019. And the greens are wins, the whites are losses. So he's pulled, 20 times and only has 2 losses to Gennady and Levon. So, I mean, pretty impressive. I don't think anyone can, besides Levon, does Levon even compete with this because he's not as active? I mean, this might be the most impressive resume.
2019, Levon's probably only had like 7 or 8 super matches.
Right.
I feel like it's that.
Yeah. So, what's your general take on this, Chris? Do you think Devin deserves all the hype? Is he overrated still, or?
No, I mean, Devin's not overrated. I mean, a lot of the guys that he pulled here are not the top of the top, but some of them are. And, like you said, regardless of the style, he got the wins on all of those, and he took the loss to Gennady, and obviously Levon was just, still an alien.
Yeah.
But, people should people should tone it down a little bit, because the standard with all the the new arm wrestling fans is, if you're not the GOAT, you shit.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to our next post here. We have a post, another one by Best Glazard. He says, "Yeah, big boy," and it is a still from the match at Arm Wars over the weekend. Devin Laird, Georgi Svetkov, left-handed. Did you guys catch this one yet?
Yep.
I did. Yeah, I saw it, and then also people are sharing 1,000 pirated streams where people are ripping this thing off big time.
Yeah, it's getting worse.
It was just a shame, man. I get it. I mean, I get why someone would want to. It's just like, I don't know. I'm just such a believer in supporting our sport, and any money going into it, in my opinion, is good, right? And but the match was. I thought Georgie was not. Spoiler alert. Pause it here if you don't know the outcome before I talk about this at all.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that too.
But yeah, I thought it would be closer. I thought Georgie would do better. I didn't think he was going to win the whole thing, but I thought he would do better left-handed. I was surprised. I was really surprised by this.
Chris, agree, disagree?
Honestly, I thought that Devin might actually do better than he did. He was in a lot of trouble. It wasn't until the 5th round that Georgie really started to lose the battle from an endurance standpoint. Devin's hand was gone, so he was forced to actually King's move. Early on, he was completely dominant. And I will tell you that stuff that happened first round was nonsense. Devin got a legit 3 wins on Georgie, and they weren't called. It should have been over sooner than it was, but no, Georgie's hand was awesome. And hey, what can you say?
I think I was just expecting more out of his arm. I was expecting him to pull that bottom strap back harder and open up Devin's arm more. I think that was the thing that shocked me. I thought Georgie would have so much posting and rolling ability that Devin would really be out here rather than up here more.
Well, that's weird. They actually recently tested out Georgie's back pressure lift, and it's not that great. He struggles with anything in the 50 kilo range. But his rotation's incredible, and his hand control is awesome. So he has to kind of top roll with that open arm. He can't keep a tight angle, and obviously he doesn't have a shoulder. So, and you need a shoulder to beat Devin.
That's what I was thinking the whole time. If that dude, 400 pounds of him, got a nasty press, because he's so close, right? Like 2 or 3 inches, but he just doesn't have that tool in his arsenal. And I think, people got to be yelling at him back in Bulgaria, like, dude, press. Just it doesn't even have to be that good of one, dude. Just throw that.
Bulgarians like hooking. Yeah, they like inside. How come he does?
I don't know. We got to do something about that. But hey, great match, man. If you ever wondered about what a battle for height looks like in arm wrestling, well, this was it, and this still kind of shows it. They were posted up on their triceps like crazy. I don't know where I was talking about this, but do you guys think there's value in training the crap out of your tricep for hypertrophy in order to get more height in this sort of position? It might have been you who said it, Derek. I can't remember.
Did I talk to you about that? I feel like I've been talking about it.
I didn't want to misquote you, but I know this conversation came up.
Yeah, it just the way it got brought up is me and Devin. We've measured our elbow to fingertip 1,000 times over the years, and we were always the exact same. And then when I saw him in Turkey, there was a pool table which is kind of low, and I was like, hey, there's people watching. I was like, I think we're the same. We've measured a lot, but we got down on our knees, so our hands are like here instead of up above him. And I was an inch higher than him, legitimately. Like I was way higher. We've measured so many times. And he's like, oh, maybe I'm getting old and things are compressing. I'm like, an inch? I just flew by you randomly with an inch difference. And then I was thinking about it because of the angle. I was on my tricep. I wasn't leaning onto the tip of my elbow. And because I do presses, I do, a bench, and I have a tricep, and Devin doesn't, to speak of. And I was like, so that's the only thing that made sense, possibly, that why I would suddenly have an inch on him. And then it got the ball rolling in my head, like, wow, I wonder if just for like this angle and setups, how like Artem and some people like to set the straps like this away underneath and all that stuff, and like really get on that tricep. I just kind of wonder about the merit of it. And when it comes to these high-level matches with the long arm super heavyweights, if it could really make a difference, like the tricep and having a thicker one.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's I've never heard that take before. I thought it was really interesting. Okay, let's move on here. This is kind of a funny meme. So this is that same still. If you zoom in the back, the ref is
scroll up to the photo of them both that we were just looking at for a second. Okay, right above Devin's like brachioradialis, that other mound, the one behind it, is that his pronator going out? Is it?
No, that's the ref's hand doing this.
Yeah, okay.
Are you
yeah.
sure? Dude,
Yeah, I'm sure.
what if that's his foundation? That would be the most epic photo of all time.
His pronator is white as fuck because he's white.
Yeah,
really white.
Unless he's injecting the synthol directly into his
That'd be crazy. I was like, what is that?
If it would be anybody's, it would be his. Yeah.
True. We have a cool post here from the one from Masai. I guess there was a live stream Hermes did in Italian, apparently, and he was kind enough to translate it for us. So it was a live with Isa and Giovanni Nemes, and Italian champion. He said, I'll speed read this. I thought I could do two matches in a short time, then relax, but 2 matches is too close, too stressful. I should have taken time to prepare for the match, work on my weak points, and prepare for the future. Losing gives me more motivation. I expected Devin's pronation and rise to be so strong. I haven't been training enough my hand and wrist the last couple years. I thought they were strong enough and I didn't need it, so I concentrate on my arm. Now I will start training them hard again. My arm is much stronger than Devin's, as I felt when we hooked during the match and in the sparring the day after, but his pronation and rise were stronger. Then he said the event took too long. He was a bit tired. He was slamming energy drinks, but gave credit to Devin here. So interesting post. He also says, I will go to Canada and we'll stay a couple of days together training. So pretty sweet. Good loss. I mean, what do you guys think? Was it wise for him to take this match on 1 month's notice, or should he have said, no, thank you, I need some time?
I think he needed more time. I mean, I just turned down 3 matches offered to me 1 month after my East vs. West match. I was like, nope, not doing it. I was like, I'm not falling into this trap and rushing matches without being prepared. No. So, I mean, and he had the biggest thing to risk of all, right? The interim number 1 ranking. Like, so no, I mean, really, from Hermes' perspective, you probably shouldn't have rushed it. I mean, the allure of arm wrestling Devin and all the hype and all the views and all that, I get it, right? Like, that's a match, and Hermes has wanted that match for a long time, but yeah, maybe you just got a little too excited too quickly, you know?
Yeah. He also noted that there weren't any mind games. I know Devin. I know how he acts. It didn't affect me in any way. Devin was respectful and grateful because I accepted the match. And that was, I mean, anytime Devin gets a win, everyone comes out with all the reasons. Oh, it was mind games, this. Or he just said the dude was stronger, man. He's just stronger. It's not the mind games. These athletes are competing at such a high level. I don't think they're too subject to getting nervous and all that jazz. So interesting post. Any thoughts on this, Chris?
Yeah, so you said it right there. I kind of had the feeling throughout that whole week that every time they touched hands that Hermes realized he was not going to be able to control Devin's hand. And I think regardless of when he took the match, he wasn't doing the right stuff to beat Devin. So, even if he got stronger where he was, the gap was palpable. And I don't think in 2 months or 3 months, Hermes would have been able to fix it. He doesn't have the ability to control the pronation. And he might have gotten a few more percent on his back pressure or side pressure, but that wrist will fold as soon as he goes sideways, and it wouldn't have done anything.
Yep. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. And somewhere in there, he said, in the setup, he's like, I know I'm going to lose my hand. And that's why he kind of got down. It wasn't mind games. It wasn't anything else. He's like, sometimes you're beat. New arm wrestling strategy. Oh, well, okay then.
Yeah, just because of the setup, I just wanted to comment. A lot of people seem to misunderstand. Just because somebody's complaining doesn't mean the setup is unfair. It doesn't mean the refs are bad. Hermes said it there. He felt he was going to lose his hand. So he's fighting for everything. And when you're gripping up with somebody stronger than you, a fair grip feels unfair because you're uncomfortable and you don't have control. So just everybody remember that. Fair grips feel unfair if you're weaker. That's all.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll read the relevant section there. He said, this is Hermes. During the setup, I couldn't take a decent position. I anticipated my wrist would have been opened, and I felt bad. My only regret is that I couldn't express my real strength, even if maybe I would have lost anyway, and my wrist would have cracked. Last round, I was down, my hand was a little tired, and I felt hopeless. So there you go, man. That explains his lack of energy. He was just beat. We have this. So if you're really trying to min-max your training and you're sick of taking a break for Mother Nature, this is a way. If you're committed to arm wrestling, you'll find a bro, you'll do this, and just take your game to the next level.
If the next time we hang out, this isn't me and you, Ryan, I'm really
I'm going to hold you to that, man.
I weigh a lot, though. I might pull you over, bro, and then we're in a weird
yeah. Maybe I'll put a backpack.
That would be shitty.
Yeah, that'd be
shitty. But that'll do it for the show today. All right. So, I'd love to see that, I think. Next up, Travis Bajan beats Pablo left-handed. Did not expect to read that on the subreddit yesterday.
The
So here it is.
comeback is real. I don't know. I mean,
I think that's an exact quote. Yeah.
This is just a practice poll, right? Isn't it?
It was, but there was a ready go. I don't know the context or how tired they were, but that the guy in the blue gave them a proper start.
Like, okay, what does this mean? This means for Travis Bajan, at Travis Bajan level, like a peak all-star Travis, best form he's been in, this would have been like embarrassing for Travis that it went this slow and that he even slowed him down, right? So It's impressive. Whatever Travis is at, the fact that Pablo is at a high level, but nowhere near the level Travis is at, or a peaked left-handed Travis, right? I would think we would all agree. So I don't know. I mean, is this impressive for Travis? Is this impressive? I don't know how impressive it is. I'm not sure how impressed to be by it, I guess. Pablo's amazing. Just where is Travis? I mean, this could be Travis in 2 months of prep. You know what I mean? Like lefty.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how serious to take it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I guess one takeaway is he lost to Elsesser, right? What was that, like 2 years ago?
Mm.
Is it fair to say Pablo's a higher level than Elsesser? I'm not sure.
Not close. They're not close.
Right,
yeah,
right. So I guess that means Travis is on the up and up. I guess if nothing else.
I've heard rumors that he's going for it.
I can say this.
What's that, Chris?
I can say this. At the East versus West finals, after that I went to Travis's house and we were all playing around and everything, and then Travis was not tough. I mean, maybe with some tricks he'd be able to get me, but on that day I was gonna like, right. and you know, I'm not ready to beat Pablo yet, but it's not that far off. And I'll tell you guys after the stream why I think that, but it doesn't matter. What I will say is that's Travis doing nothing. All right. If he really is on those stem cells and he's been trained, I mean, we see him every day on the show with Artem doing something. All right. Yeah. If he's even half serious, it's not a big gap to go from where I felt him to if Pablo is not on his shit to get his wrist cracked. It's really not that far. And Pablo, I mean, let's clarify. Pablo just whooped up on Ryan Espy left-handed. Dude, super elite level even for super heavyweights. Travis is always going to be that guy. He's always right around the corner. So,
but he's wearing flip-flops. I mean, how serious is Travis taking this training session?
That's true. Definitely popped the double off at the start pretty hard.
Hey, but you know what? Look at the tone in his tricep, but look at the tone in his arm. That wasn't there when I saw him last.
True.
I saw him in person. It wasn't like that. So.
Yeah, it's funny. He said if Tyson makes it into the NFL, you'll never see him again. He is done with arm wrestling, but it's almost been the reverse. And I think he's almost maybe inspired or feels like he did his job as a father.
This is where he gets to feel like the man. He's only the man in arm wrestling.
Well,
so he's not arm wrestling. He's not the man.
Right.
He did say if Tyson was a first-round draft pick, then he could retire. It's millions of dollars. Tyson's a undrafted backup.
Although Tyson's killing it, man. People are talking about he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Bears in short time if Justin Fields doesn't work out.
Yeah.
We'll see, man. Anything's possible. But kudos to Tyson for making it as far as he did. That's super impressive. Thank you for the post, Silver Spoon Physics. Moving on, it was Levon's birthday. And girlfriend, wife, I'm not sure of the relationship here. Hopefully not.
I'm happy for him.
But yeah, there's Levon playing golf, attempting. All right, so this confirms arm wrestling does not translate into golf skill necessarily.
Yeah, look at that range of motion. Yeah, love that.
But when he connects, though, you should see that ball. So it's a pretty fun video. It's kind of like a TikTok reel. If you guys want to see the whole video, head on over to reddit.com/r/arm wrestling, and you can watch Levon do daily things, which is kind of oddly entertaining for some reason. But yeah, happy birthday, Levon. You guys have anything to add on that, or is it open and shut case?
He's a great dude, man. I like the light that I've seen Levon. I'm sure you've talked to him and seen like he's such a goofball and he's such a nice guy. He really is, and it's nice to have a video kind of show light on that and him enjoying. Like I like to see our top guys being successful and living the life that people should want to live. I want them to be an idol for people, for up and coming arm wrestlers. So if they're rich and they're balling out and they're taking trips with hot girlfriends and like, oh yes, post it. Like make people want to aspire to be the top arm wrestler. Make it, make people seek it out. So yeah, I love that. Love that stuff.
Yeah, fair. Chris, you like that take?
Oh yeah. Just remember, we're all normal people. I think it was the last or one of the times that I was on. They said arm wrestling makes it when you have to talk to an arm wrestler's agent instead of the arm wrestler. We're still people.
Yeah.
They're still people. Like
I need to get an agent.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet. So next up, we have a post by Best Glazard. It says, caption this.
Oh.
White men can't dance.
Todd's a honey badger.
Todd has the most fun of all the arm wrestlers, I think.
He does have a lot of fun.
Yeah, anytime he's at an event, he's always filming in the hotel room, singing, doing all kinds of stuff. Dude, he's living the dream, man. So, good stuff from Todd. And next up, we have a lift. Mexican Sensei Josue Gonzalez Maya, 63 kilogram pronation. Quick maths. What's 63? Was that like 140? Oh,
Says
yeah,
140
140 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, 138, something like that.
138.
I got to do this lift, man. Everybody's doing it. I've never even attempted this.
Yeah, this isn't in my arsenal, so I'm sure this is extremely impressive, but I don't know how. Chris, tell me you do this lift. Give us some perspective here.
So I haven't done this lift for 1 rep max this way, but I do train it on a regular basis. I've definitely done 120. I'm not sure how much more I can do, but you know, generally when I do my 1 rep max, I'll do it on the table. But I am interested in trying this out. But it falls into my strength standard sheet that I made last year, and I would say, you know, anything in that 120 plus range, you're looking at nationally ranked level for, you know, any weight class. And 130 plus, that's elite stuff. And then, you know, 140 plus, you're talking world level.
Are you supposed to be rocking back off your tricep like on your leg like that, or is it supposed to be just a lift without rocking back?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you know, the key here is just the you know, the angle that the forearm makes with the ground. That flexion has to be produced, whether it's a close angle or a further angle. It still has to be there, and if you're not losing that rotation, then you're not losing it.
There you go. So yeah, for those that don't know, Chris, you made like because what's the most common question we get? Is this a good lift? Is this good numbers? Blah blah blah. So you kind of made a guide or a template almost for what a good lift would be in terms of weight. What's the best place for people to find that? I know it's in your post history on Reddit, but is it?
So I mean, on my YouTube, it's the most popular video. So check that.
There you go.
Yeah,
Ryan, let's put that somewhere on the Reddit, like on the top or on the bar or something. Like
Yes. Yes. All right. Yeah. After the show, we'll pin that on the sidebar. That's a great idea.
That way, people keep asking the same question. And just
yeah, we can just link that. Great call here. Legacy hammer issues. I don't know if you guys saw this video. Devin posted this, basically calling out Denis Saplenkov for not handing over the legacy hammer on left hand. And for those people newer to the sport, in 2018, Devin took an old trophy from the World Arm Wrestling League. It's a big hammer, and he decided to make this a organization neutral award that goes to the best arm wrestler in the world. So it changes hands, countries, leagues, doesn't matter. If you're the best, you hold the legacy hammer. And when Denis beat Devin left-handed, Devin gave him the hammer, and that was 2018. And immediately after that match, Denis got sick, went to the hospital, hasn't really arm wrestled since, except for recently. But he has never given that hammer away. In fact, he hasn't arm wrestled at all left-handed, I don't believe, since then. So Devin calling him out, saying, dude, you can't just hold on to this thing until you die. You gotta, if you're not pulling, you gotta hand it away. Agree?
What, give it to Morzov, probably?
What's that?
Probably hand it to Morzov if he's not gonna arm wrestle.
Devin actually suggested Vitali, but yeah, I don't know. Morzov, I think, was considered number one for at least a minute there. After he beat the Dekian.
Is Vitali number one lefty right now?
No, maybe.
I actually think it depends on who you ask, right? But
yeah,
I mean, when they publish the export news rankings or whatever, I actually think he's 2 behind Morozov, but I think Vitali wins that match.
Vitali's amazing. I wouldn't be surprised he wins it at all. I was just trying to think who's on that list.
I think he's second on that list.
Okay.
So before we move on, this just happened. So I'm on the fence, but so this is a video that is just happened.
Oh, Levon and Devin?
Yeah, left-handed. So they pull a few times. I don't want to steal the footage, but it's so relevant to this video. I'll show you one of the pulls. The rest you can find on Devin's channel. That way Hopefully we're cross-pollinating and not just taking
live commentary. Love this.
Yeah, we'll do some live commentary, right?
Wait, is this live? No, this happened a little while ago.
Yeah, this happened, I don't know, 30 minutes or so ago.
Awesome.
All right, they're strapping up. Let's go.
He's so huge.
He's so big. Jesus. And Devin just had a super match a couple weeks ago. Lefty.
Boom. Hammered. We'll give them. They pull a bunch of times. We'll do one more now that Devin got a feel for it and he's doing some.
I have a feeling that pretty much happened the whole time.
Maybe. No spoilers. And Levon has said he's injured all throughout his left. His wrist is injured, elbow and shoulder. So this is a injured Levon.
Oh, that wrist is going back a little bit.
That has to be a pin. Devin is flat out. So doubt Levon not. He may be injured, but he is still Levon.
That's him going slow. That's him doing it slow too. Like that wasn't Levon going fast and hitting. That was just
right. That was not a ready go. That was him just being like, watch this. And Devin presumably is pretty fresh. Like I know the arm wrestling just released, but that was really after East versus West 9. So Levon may be number 1 in the world left-handed. That's going to be the conversation over the next couple of days. Watch for that. Any thoughts on that one, Chris? You see anything interesting?
Levon was invincible left-handed. His left was his better arm, but he chased the right-hand glory after the Zloty tour and handed again. And he got injured, I guess, that year. But, it's no surprise to me if Levon's even most of the way there that only Vitali really had anything to show for him. And at that Zloty tour, Vitali almost put him down. I mean, he did. He busted the wrist, and he was so much faster off the go. But yeah, those are the two baddest dudes we got.
Yeah,
Chad's saying that Devin was arm wrestling for a while before he pulled Levon.
That's always true. I know for a fact he's been arm wrestling for the entire last day since he arrived.
Fair. Yeah, they're all in Florida, right? For like Vitacell biologic stem cell stuff. Levon's there, Devin's there, Brad Grundy's in there. So they're having a good old time. Okay, so let's clarify for the record. Devin was not fresh at all. So take that for what it, or maybe Levon wasn't either. I don't know. Do we have any context there?
It's a practice.
Yeah, whatever.
It's a practice.
Yeah. Devin loses a lot in practice.
Yes.
I have videos of me pinning Devin 30 times in a row at practice. So.
Yeah, you should have seen how he did with Nick Stone. It's like
did he pull Nick?
Yeah, well, it was at the East versus West finals. I was standing right there to his right, and he did. I mean, he didn't have anything for Nick, but he'd been pulling for so long, and Nick won the class, of course. But it was like, none of that would have happened if Devin was fresh. Devin loses a lot, so it's all good.
We're talking about practice, man. Yeah. So there you go. So that's really cool. Let's move on to our next post by user Kingpin. He says, I finally figured it out. Long hair Alexei Vovoda is a dead ringer for Furio from the Sopranos. So can't get the picture much bigger. There we go. So here's Alexei, and kind of.
I'm a stickler for details, and Alexei's nose is way pointier and way more downsloping, and obviously he's way more jacked. The only thing similar to me is like the long hair, I guess. Yeah,
that's it, huh?
For me, that's about it. This guy has dimples. Alexei doesn't. Like this is
fair. I can see it. I can definitely see it. It's not. They're not dissimilar, but not bad, Chris.
So I actually have watched a lot of The Sopranos before, and this picture is not a good one. There are a lot more where he looks a lot more like Alexei. And in fact, especially when Alexei was lighter, way more similar. But yeah,
I have not watched The Sopranos.
You non capisco, io non poнимai.
I'm sure that was a great reference. Can't appreciate it though. But yeah, no dimples. So sorry, trash post. You're banned.
Garbage.
Get him out of the subreddit. Next up, we have a post from Arm Wrestling is Fun, and it's just saying this is Devin 5 years ago, and he went from being Milo Larrett to Devin Laird now.
He does look like Milo. They look so similar.
Yeah,
Milo's like eerily similar looking to Devin. Like it's wild.
Yeah, you guys see him pull? Crazy. The next generation is now in Arm Wars.
That's Auden.
No, that was Auden.
Oh yeah, sorry. I don't know.
Milo's the other one. Come on, you should know all about Devin's family, bro. You have to do your fan knowledge. Come on.
Am I even an arm wrestler?
Are you even a mod?
Oh God! All right, guys, we got to go. But Auden pulled. Very impressive. He's 18 years old and put on a good show. got some pins at least. He's taken arm wrestling super serious, right? He went to Turkey to like train under Engen for a bit, and now he's doing arm wars. So he's like all in on arm wrestling. Really impressive young lad. So, all right, how are we doing on time? All right, we're halfway through. You guys want to get into some training questions /
Always down. I'm always
Bring it
down
on.
for training questions.
Bring it on. Let's go. All right, first one here. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. It's posted by user Charming Marzipan 880. Title is Whose Fault Is This? Today, I arm wrestled my classmate sitting down, I suppose. I was familiar with the rules and techniques and how to avoid a broken arm. Started off the match, we couldn't move each other's arms. I tried to hook him, and he didn't use any of his wrist or body. His humerus broke. I don't know if he was familiar with technique or not. Our hands were in front of our faces. Is this guy culpable? Should we lock him up? Are you responsible for not breaking amateurs' arms?
I can't believe you did that to him. I can't believe you broke that guy's arm, man. That was all you, bro.
All you.
No. I mean, obviously, we could say that you say you understand how to avoid a broken arm. Do you understand how to keep somebody else from breaking their arm first? But rule of thumb in arm wrestling, it's always the person whose arms breaks fault for breaking their arm, right? Granted, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. You should have taken that into account. This is why I do not arm wrestle random people on the streets ever. But you know, in the end, he had to do certain things for his arm to snap in half. It was required for him to apply a certain amount of side pressure at a certain point when there was resistance to snap his own arm in half. So no, even on my worst enemy, I don't know if I could break someone's arm. I think about that sometimes. My worst enemy, like if I really wanted to, could I break their arm? Could I make it happen? Like against their will? I don't know. I don't think I can. I don't think it's possible. Maybe if they got on a full press, I let him get there, and then I hit it sideways as hard as I could, right when they're showing. Maybe I could break it, but it's really I've never seen that. So it's the other guy's fault. But yes, if you understand how a broken arm works, then you need to try to keep people safe. The way I do that when I'm arm wrestling random people, if I ever do, is I immediately cup, make them go palm up, put them in a bicep curl position. Once their palm is up, they stop going sideways and they start trying to curl you. Perfect. Now we're risking a torn bicep, but I'd rather risk that than a broken arm. Yeah. So that's how I do it. And I've never broken anybody's arm personally.
Yep. Chris?
Nope. Derek said everything right.
There you go. Yeah. I've got into some uncomfortable spots. I mean, anytime I go to a family gathering, right, I'm the arm wrestling dude. Everyone wants to, let's go. I've been training, blah, blah, blah. And it can get uncomfortable. So I might adopt that policy of just not arm wrestling random people because they just throw their body at it. And it's like, sometimes I'll just give it up, like, because you don't want to see anything bad happen. So, all right, moving on here. You are off the hook, Charming Marzipan. You're safe. You have been acquitted of your crimes or non-crimes, I suppose. Is this lift good for a 16-year-old? 27.5 kilograms, so like 60 pounds, give or take.
This is all Chris.
And you say small Chris?
No, this is all Chris. I have no idea.
All Chris. Oh.
I don't know about for a 16-year-old. I mean, it's an okay lift. I don't know what the guy weighs, but it's pretty common to see beginners lifting in that 60-pound range for a locked pronation lift. Sometimes it's less. Sometimes you see a little under 50, and sometimes you see a little bit more. It's pretty rare for somebody who's never done any training at all to do 70 pounds. But yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's all right.
Don't seek external validation. Train for yourself.
Right. I feel like this was a ego boost post. All I can say to you is don't watch old footage of Bacho, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. So, man, he shames all of us.
Yeah, fair. Honestly, that applies to anyone of any age, not just 16-year-olds.
And weight.
True. All right, let's move on here. We got a post by Interesting Row 4476. Should I train supination if I train cupping? So I put fat grip on a cable and then do cupping and side pressure. For those who don't know, a fat grip is just basically a rubber round thing that makes your grip a little wider. Basically, when cupping, I'm already in a hook. So what do I need supination for? And I am super interested in your guys' answer to this because I used to listen to old Devin Laird seminars, and it was always rising, cupping, pronating, and supinating were the 4 pillars. And it kind of feels like when he talks now, supination has been removed. What do you guys think? What role does supination have? Do you need to train it if he's training cupping, as he's suggesting? How does it help you? How does it hurt you? What are your thoughts?
Chris, you go first.
So I'm gonna put a video specifically on supination in my Hook Mastery series. So I'll get into this in some detail, but I would say that yes, supination is an element that you have to have. It's not so much the act of actually turning your palm in, but it's resisting losing that angle as you commit your shoulder. Okay, so if I go to commit my shoulder and this stays behind, yeah, my hand kind of pronates, but that really is just a guy escaping from me. Okay. And supination can be a great strength to have if you're a little bit weak in the hand. You can shift the pressure and not rely so much on your fingers. Like anybody who has ever watched Scott Ballinger set the hook against a top rope,
solo.
He's punching up like this. He's supinating and driving up. He's not so much using his hand. Okay, so just because you can bend your wrist doesn't mean you get, doesn't mean you really end up in the hook controlling the pronation and using your frame. You could end up here and then get drilled, right? So yeah, supination is something you need to do. It's my estimate that differences in supination strength or bicep strength, because the bicep is what drives supination, probably only accounts for 5% of the variance in the outcomes of arm wrestling matches. So it's a good strength to have, but it's not like it's your supination versus their supination or something else. It has to be combined with more important fundamentals for you to be able to effectively use it. But yes, you should train supination, but it's like one of the last things you should train, I think, unless you are completely hook dominant and you have to set that hook that way. That's all.
There you go. Derek, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree. I was just trying to think of, like, this guy is basically saying he's already in the hooks. I'm assuming this guy hooks. If my assumption's correct, right, then supination training, like Chris said, like your bicep controls heavy supination. There's supinator muscle, but it doesn't handle heavy resistance. Your bicep takes over any kind of heavy load. So for my supination, I just do heavy bicep curls, palm up, and I just over supinate my curls. I mean, that's how I get my supination. I don't do any direct supinating work with like the band underneath my hand. I don't do that. But I think that there's scenarios if you are a hook puller and you like deep connection. If you are a strong guy and you're like, if I touch my wrist to your wrist, you're screwed, then supination, chopping, cupping, things like that can be a big player for you. If you're someone that likes to dive into like a European style hook, someone real close and you start holding, then yes, supination and having a good bicep is going to be important. The argument will go back to fundamentals of arm wrestling in terms of is supinating, which will basically in turn mean you're holding on, which is technically not the most efficient thing to do because you should be rolling, you know what I mean? Like, so you should be up in their hand because you're expending energy trying to hold on to people too much. You get into that argument, and then we could talk about maybe not training supination. But if you're a dedicated hook puller and you want to hold on, you want to shoot in, you want to get hold of things, and on top of what Chris said, keeping the static supination protected as well, then there's definitely reasons to train it, or reasons to train, get stronger at supination, but not training it isolated, I guess is the best way of saying it. But yeah, there's reasons that you would need it on a table for sure, but I wouldn't put it at the top of your list.
I do have one thing to add that just came to my mind, but if you're able to be in the hook, supinating more isn't going to help you anymore. All right, once that pressure shifted to this side of your hand and wrist, the ulnar side, you don't want to keep supinating. All right, you're putting yourself on your bicep. That's what that is. And the key is just to shift the pressure away from your thumb. And it's not usually a strength thing that does this. Supination is about position. A lot of people will think that this is supination. It's this side pressure while they're supinated. And that's really not the case. But you think about it, if you're in any kind of hook position, turning yourself more palm up is bad for you. It gives up the match. It gives them access to your arm. So it's about setting position, but you want to be turning your palm down as soon as you can. Even in the hook, you want to be turning this way. So,
yeah, okay. On that, I want to talk about this. I love talking about this. There is a deep underbelly underlining under the mountain of priorities in arm wrestling, and there is a weird ass situation. You're hooking. The guy has driven sideways. He's attacking your pronation. You're trying to defend. Most people pronate actively the most on offense and defense, but not center.
Yep. Yep.
Now, the argument, I've gotten into arguments with very experienced arm wrestlers who've been doing like 30 years, and they're like, they think pronation at all times, constantly through the table. And I understand that. I understand why you would do that. But so say you're on defense, you're trying to hold a guy, you're hooking, and he's starting to tackle your pronation through his cup. At some point, there is an ugly option of supinating to connect your forearm right here to his, taking back center table, because you're not fighting with your pronation anymore. You're not trying to fight his cup. anymore with your pronation. You're connecting his forearm, getting really ugly, inner elbowy, shouldery, getting it back to center table because you're steering his forearm instead of his hand now because you're touching below, getting back to center, then regripping, and then starting your pronation attack. That is an option. It's super ugly. It's super elbowy. It's super arm breaky, but it is an ugly underbelly option to get something done, which is ultra supinated palm up. You just have to have the bicep trust, inner elbow trust, and shoulder trust to be able to do it in that situation. It's ugly, but it is there. I've seen it. I've done it. It's it feels like a Todd Hutchings type of thing.
Yeah.
It's gross, but it's there.
That's a very strong position for me, actually. I love that spot there. But, the caveat is if they are on your thumb, it's really hard to shift that pressure. So you have to set it early.
Yeah.
Once you feel it going this way, you got to bone line them. And then once that pressure shifted, your pronation's not an issue anymore. If you're already in a pressured up hook, then you try to supinate more, you're probably,
Yeah. One thing I will add is it's still probably wise to train it because it's the antagonist to pronation, right? We were talking about this in a previous episode. We're doing so much wrist flexion. You also want to train some wrist extension, right? If you talk to athletes and really any discipline, you need to make sure you're training your hamstrings because if you're running a lot, it's a lot of quadricep. And so you need to balance out both sides, the extensor and the flexor, in this case, the pronator and the supinator. One strength coach even told me, he's like, it's safer to be just weaker than to have imbalances. Like if your quadricep is super strong, your hamstring can't keep up, you're asking for an injury. So I do think there's some value in training pronation, if only to help stabilize your wrist in that direction. But like you guys were saying, dangerous, right? Because I've won a ton of matches by turning someone palm up, right? Attacking their pronator. Well, if you supinate too much for no reason, you're just giving up your pronation, right? You can be like, oh, I'm supinating, but you can't have that without losing pronation. So perhaps only supinate as much as you need to sink that hook. And then like Chris was saying, don't supinate anymore. It's not going to help you any more than that, right? So instead of thinking of supination, you can almost think about of how much of my pronator do I want to sacrifice to get where I want to go and try to minimize the amount of pronation sacrifice there. Interesting question. Next up, when is it better to load up back pressure or keep a committed shoulder? This is by Interesting Row 4476. He writes, basically, everyone says that it's better if you have your shoulder as close to your hand as possible. But when starting, I found that I sometimes prefer to keep a longer distance so that I can kind of defend their attack. I don't know how that works. I just don't feel as strong when I have shoulder as close to my hand as possible. Of course, I know I'm in a bad position if I get opened up. And I've asked this question to some of the more experienced guys in my club when I was new, because I had a similar feeling, because they're always like, get tight, lock up. But it just did not feel connected there. And one of the more experienced pullers was like, it's a different spot for everyone. The ideal location where you're tight, where you're locked in, is going to be different for everyone. Everyone has different levers, different humerus lengths, different radial ulna, everything. So you got to find the spot that's good for you, and it will get tighter over time. As your tendons, ligaments strengthen, everything gets tighter. You'll be able to sink a much better spot. But early on, is it better to go where you feel comfortable, or are you guys telling your new people, just get as tight as possible, even if you are, in fact, weaker there?
I completely disagree with everything you just said, Ryan. I'm going to start off with that. And whoever you talk to, okay?
Oh, bring it up with them. We'll get them on the show, man. This will be good. This will be spicy.
I agree. Okay, people have different builds and things like that. But generally, everybody's lock is about 90. It's somewhere right in there. It's not like this guy's lock is right here, and this guy's lock is way out here. Like, that's his strongest point. I mean, it's generally around 90 for everyone. I just had this conversation yesterday with a new guy at my practice. Is that, like, he's like, yeah, but I feel he's a younger cat, and he was like, arm wrestling kind of open. He says, I feel stronger there. I'm like, yeah, because that's your lock. That's where your max resistance is in like a isometric hold, right? I said, but arm wrestling is about setting up negatives. It's about setting up negative cycles where you're strongest, right? I can start arm wrestling in here and stay tight, but by the time I pin someone, I am going to be out here with the arm kind of open by the time I get the pin. It's about setting up that negative buffer that by the time I pin, it's successful and I'm not too far out of position generally. So I can, we concentric curl 20 pounds. I can isometric hold 40, and I can slowly let down 60, right? So it's setting up those negatives. So by the time we pin, everything's we've hit that lock. Starting on the lock, for me, it's like starting on the edge of a cliff. Like, I don't want to start there. I don't want to start right at my strongest point. I want to have a nice buffer that will hit that when I need to hit it, and then have it depend on it after that. So And then there's a bunch more reasons why maybe starting with your shoulder tighter is a good idea in terms of applying your pec muscles and internal rotation and adduction and all that things. But yeah, starting way out there, man, it's a little dicey to me, and it's starting too close to the edge. But his original, I mean, that's what like the bulk of his post said, but his title is saying, when's it better to load up back pressure or keep committed shoulder?
Yeah, this is a bait and switch.
Yeah, that's different than what he wrote in the thing, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Top rollers tend to load, inside pullers tend to do a committed shoulder, right? But you can top roll from tight. That's totally fine. I do it. I get as tight as I can, but I'll also be loading because you want to get their fingers working before the match starts. That's kind of a different conversation. So I'm going to stick with what we talked about in the paragraph.
Chris.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, you said everything I think you needed to say. One thing I will say is that when you do have a committed shoulder and you're loading up the hook, it's fine. A lot of people will make the mistake of no loading. And in fact, I did this trying to be a little bit quicker when I was pulling Vitor at the East versus West finals. But generally, if you're a little bit slower, you still want to be loading and you want to be pulling back this way. Look at Devin when he hooks. My goodness. Okay, he's super long and rangy. He's loaded up like crazy. And then it's down and a little forward. He's not lurching across the table because then you give up your whole position and you get drilled without any resistance. So yeah, if it's your style and loading up is better for you, which you're not going to know 3 months in or whatever, you'll figure out what's really best for you. You can do it whether you're committing your shoulder or you're going to be peeling back. So
yeah, I do think speed is a big factor in whether you should load or not load. Right, if you're both applying zero pressure and you can get to 100 before them, well, you're going to have a few milliseconds or whatever of max strength when they are not at their max strength, and vice versa. If they're faster than you, well, it's going to be the opposite. They're going to be at full power before you are. This is maybe a little too meta here, but I was talking to Ron Klemba, a legendary puller for those newer to the sport, about this, and he's like, I was one of the first people to start doing a dead load at the start when I would travel to Russia and stuff. And nobody knew what to do with it. They were just confused, right? Because if they loaded, they'd pull my arm off and the ref would tell them to stop. He's like, it wasn't a thing. And I would smoke people because they were just so uncomfortable without that pressure in the start. So maybe there's some value there. Just throwing someone off. A lot of people, all day in practice, they're just loaded all the time. They never do a dead load. So you might be able to get some sneaky wins by at least having that in your back pocket. All right, moving on here. Pronation versus cupping. This is by user Masteron Kings. The title is Pronation versus cupping. What is the king for arm wrestling? I think pronation is the most important because being fully supinated is a death sentence. Oh, man. But you can still win even if your wrist is bended back. And you? So he wants to know what we think. And the only options he's giving us are pronation and cupping. Sorry, Rising. Sorry, Supination. You're out. So what do we think, guys? Pronation, cupping. What is the king for arm wrestling?
You go first, Chris.
I mean, they're opposites of each other. All right. It has to be known you cannot beat your opponent without turning their pronation over unless you're flopping. All right. Flop roll, flop press. You can't beat them without turning their pronation over. And most people don't have a viable flop move. Or they do when they catch a top roll or something and they're both back like in the straps. But most of the time, you have to be able to beat their pronation. And so from a defensive standpoint, staying alive, pronation is the most important thing. Cupping, I would say, is the most important for offensive arm wrestling because almost all offense depends on the ability to break down your opponent's pronation, to pull the match closer to you, to be more efficient, and ultimately to destroy. And so I put them in equal importance because they are opposites to each other. And if there's an edge, in the long run, you're going to ultimately be able to develop more strength in your pronation. That's why all the big super heavyweights, how many of them are actually holding on? Only the weirdos, like Levon. Like only the weirdos are holding on to other top 10 guys. And it's because the arm strength and the size is so ridiculous. Holding on to it's just suicide. You can't develop enough cup to match for that. So I would say pronation probably grabs a little bit higher importance, but for most arm wrestling, most of the time, I would say they're equal.
And before you move on, what if you add Rising into that mix? Is that even on the level? No. And Rising has importance. I had a good video on that one a little while ago called The Role of the Riser. And I went into a little bit of detail, but not crazy amounts, like for particular techniques and all that. Riser is very good for setting up and for accessing your pronation.
Riser's very good for setting a hook, for example, and for making adjustments mid-match. But if it just comes down to my strength versus your strength, most of the time, Riser. I mean, there are ways to defeat Riser without having Riser. So
yeah, attacking their pronator. Derek.
Yeah, who holds on? Super heavyweight
Loser.
level.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen that.
Okay, I hold on a little bit sometimes. All right, I did better the last one. I held on. I tried once to hold on, and it didn't work out. Anyway, I was listening to Chris, and I understand his point, right? Because they fight each other. Pronation and cupping fight each other. Pronation is more of a defensive thing because that's stopping their cup, and cupping is more of an offensive thing. I just feel that I might choose pronation on this one a little bit because I feel that having pronation be dominant can lead once you beat their cupping. Once you lose your cup, then they need minimal cup to pin you, compared to if you have your full cup engaged and we're in the match. You know what I mean? So the pronation beats the cup, the pinning is a lot easier. If the cup wins, I'm confusing myself when I say this a little bit. Sorry. The cup wins. I feel like there's more options to make it out of there. You know what I'm saying? I guess, is that right? The right way to say it? I just feel like that if your pronation is totally dominant, that's probably gonna be a dominant victory. If your cupping is only as dominant, there's ways that it's not a dominant victory. I guess is the best way for me to say that. So I guess in my eyes, I see how they're really close. They fight each other. I think I would go with pronation a little bit though. Personally.
Interesting. Yeah. I lean towards cupping here. If I can
naturally, you go against everything I say, Ryan.
That's not even remote. Like, if I can get you palm up, if I am on top of your hand, you are palm up, like we were just talking about with the Supination post. You guys are saying like almost no one is strong with that like palm up sideways. It's just too much pressure on the inner elbow. Chris, you said you were an exception. You happen to be extremely strong there, but I think that's few and far between. So
yeah.
if I can just shut your pronator off, I don't see you powering sideways. You're going to have to you're now going to have to bicep me up and then go sideways over. Whereas if I just pronate and I lose my hand, I mean, we kind of just saw that with Georgie and Devin, right? They both at one point were kind of just pronating into each other without cupping, and it was just dead center. No one really had an advantage there for a minute. So if I had to pick, I would say cupping for that reason, because you can pronate and still lose your wrist, and that's just not a strong place to be.
And obviously, we're talking about this mythical, perfect arm wrestlers who know how to do have every ability, and are like perfect and aren't like a set hook puller or top row. Like, we're talking about this general answer of a level that's way beyond mostly everybody watching this video, including probably all of us who are not perfect in every move. You know what I mean? Like, so. Yeah, this is like a big hypothetical. Because if you're just this hardcore, whatever, top roller, outside puller, maybe pronation, you know what I mean? Like, it depends. But if we're just talking about like this imaginary match with perfect people, then yeah, that's how the answer works.
That's an extremely important point. This is almost a moot conversation because you need both, right? Like, who cares which one is king? Like, train them both, make them both as strong as physically possible. You shouldn't be like, well, the Pulse said that pronation's better, so I'm gonna cut cupping from my routine. Like. Who cares which one's king? They're both critical parts of the component. So there you go. Let's see. This guy is in pain. Let's see if we can help him out. User Dry Worldliness 2447 says, my hook hurts. I am a rookie and have been arm wrestling for about 2 months. I almost always use top roll, but for the few times that I do get into a hook position, my wrist hurts a lot. I have pain mostly in the ulnar side of my wrist, so the lower side of the wrist. This pain usually occurs when I am in an attacking position. Any tips? Sorry for my poor English. No, I thought your English was good. Don't apologize for that. Arm wrestling hurts, man. Like, I hate to break it to you. It hurts, especially when you're super new. I mean, you are not going to be conditioned for this at all. Your body's going to be like, what the heck is going on here? Your tendons aren't going to be tight. Your ligaments aren't going to be tight. Things are going to be moving more than they should when all that pressure is applied. So in my take here is that you might, without seeing you pull, you might not be doing anything wrong. This might just be a get stronger, get more conditioned kind of issue. I've never met a single new arm wrestler who could wipe their own ass after the first, month of practice. So,
wait, who wiped your ass?
Don't get hurt. What's up?
Who wiped your ass, Ryan?
Listen,
Wait, what?
He went
Hold
to the
on. I wipe my own ass. All right? I wipe my own ass, Ryan. I'm learning a lot of stuff about you right
you
now.
know those like back scratchers? Well, if you
You
apply
had
some
an
tape
extra
to
long one? You're down there getting it? Okay, all right.
God, this is a family show, guys. What are we doing here?
This is a family show?
Oh, no.
It
We can't
was.
have Chris on here.
Okay, so that's my take. It's gonna hurt. Give it time.
I'm super hesitant. Obviously, there's a ton of injury posts on Reddit, people asking about what happened with this and that, and I get a lot of those personally in like DMs and stuff. And it's I'm very hesitant to answer any of this. One, I am not a doctor, man, and there's a lot of complicated things going on, especially inside your wrists and your joints, like a lot of weird connections with ligaments and tendons and muscles and all the bones. Like there's so many things that could be wrong that for someone to give advice based on this little paragraph you wrote, I don't want to be the guy telling you to do this or this is what happened and this is what's wrong. And I also know that I don't know everything that's going on there because like this is a common injury. What you're explaining right here is something I commonly hear about, right? Ulnar side of your wrist from like the chopping part kind of hurts, or like the inner elbow. These are the ones we hear a lot, and I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to say anything because I'm not a doctor. I would say go get it checked. My advice is always go get it checked out at a doctor. Get them to look at it, see what it really is. If you really are that concerned, you think something is really, really wrong, then go do that. Right, that's always going to be my answer, just to be safe, because I don't want to give some bad advice.
Yeah. Before we get to you, Chris, I just want to amend what I said. Totally, 100% what Derek just said. You could have a tear in there. We could be doing permanent damage. We have no idea. Right? We're on the internet. All you did was write like a few sentences on a message board. We have no idea what's going on. But what I can tell you is just from experience. I went through that. Most people go through something like this. It's not necessarily that something's wrong, but use your own judgment there. Chris, anything to add to?
Yeah, so that ulnar pain usually is straining the TFCC, and this is commonly done, and it's commonly for hooks. When you're trying to rotate over their pronation, you're not really able to drive your wrist down this way. There's so much resistance, and as you rotate your forearm, it creates some separation there. A lot of people deal with that. The big symptom to this, and Ryan, like you were saying, you just toughen up a condition, is people don't know how to condition themselves properly. Everybody goes way too hard when they start, right? Travis gave actually a really good example of how to initiate somebody into exercising. He used it as an analogy for arm wrestling. It's like, okay, if you take someone who's been on the couch for a year, you don't take them to the gym and have them do 50 squats, and then the next day, like they're going to be screwed, and the next day they got to do it again. Forget it. You have them go in there and you do 5, and then the next day maybe they rest, and the next day they do 6, and everything. And you just start with a little bit. Yeah, you'll be able to go pretty hard for a while, and then you're wrecked afterwards. Even at our level, if you haven't practiced in a while, you've been on the table for a while, you pull for 2 hours, you're in trouble. You're going to be hurting for weeks, and you're not going to have good workouts for a while. I'm dealing with that right now. I needed a tune-up. So, if you're dealing with this, there's some stretches that you can do. You can take a, one-ended dumbbell, so weights on one side, and stretch the TFCC, doing this kind of stuff. Take it nice and light, just to stretch, all right? You're not going to do a whole lot of strength development of that area. But also just back off the intensity and the volume. Don't pull for 2 hours. Or if you're going to pull for 2 hours, pull really soft. And just give it time to catch up instead of throwing yourself at the wall.
Whoa, that is not the American way. It's no pain, no gain out here. Pain is growth. This is how we get jacked. And this is why American arm wrestling is somewhat behind everybody else. This is like really kind of, right? This kind of is what boils down to. Are we training intelligently, or are we doing no pain, no gain, go harder, and that's the only way to get stronger? Crack a beer, let's fucking do this. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? This is a professional approach. Take it carefully, ease into it, slowly make gains, monitor what's going on, how it feels, be intelligent with it, right? But you're going to go probably to practice. If you're in the United States, you're probably going to go there. There's going to be some good old boy that's going to tell you, oh, just take some ibuprofen and walk it off. Here, we got 10 more matches to go. Like, that's probably what's going to happen, which is kind of what holds us back, I think, in a lot of ways as a country for arm wrestling. So definitely listen to Chris. Definitely listen to Ryan. Take it serious. Wrist injuries are very serious, man, especially because, you can re-hurt it every day, all day, grabbing a pencil in the wrong direction. It'll just keep injuring itself. So take it very serious. I always took any wrist injury I had very serious in terms of, rehab work and all the things like that, keeping it still in certain areas and stretching it. It's very important for arm wrestling. So
yeah, that's why club culture is so important. I've been to there's a lot of different clubs up in the Northeast, and listen, if it doesn't even have to be the culture of the club. If there's one dude there who you're going to grip up with him and he's just going to send it because he just wants to pin you and feel good about himself. He doesn't even show up to tournaments, or he's been pulling in the amateur division for like 6 years. There's people like that. Avoid them at practice. Find your boys at your practice, if it's a big one, who are willing to work with you slowly so you can properly get conditioned, using the analogy that you said, Chris, about Travis, who can effectively do a few reps of squats with you, because this is a very taxing compound movement, not unlike a squat, just for the arm. Find someone who's a good training partner, who it feels good to pull with them. If someone's just hitting on you, you just got to just say no. Just don't pull with them.
When they hit on you just got to say no. I agree.
Just gotta say no, man. No means no in our
no means no. You got my consent.
And on that note, it's getting close to 7 o'clock, guys. Usually either Aussie or Uncle John will be going live. Check them out. Before we sign off here, Chris, thank you so much for popping in again. What's the best place for people to find you? You do coaching, you do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, YouTube and email me. And yeah, I get a lot of people message me on Instagram. That's okay. I don't mind, but yeah. My email is my professional reach, and then YouTube obviously is where I put all my stuff. So,
yeah, Chris Drummond, YouTube at Chris Drummond AW. I will plug it in the chat here. Check him out. The dude is a Wikipedia for arm wrestling, man. Check it out. Really good dude. Derek runs the armwrestlingswitch.com. Tons of cool merch. Check this out.
You have it up all the time on your computer? The website's just up, right?
Yeah, it's my it's my background for my computer, man. Just got to keep it on mind. No, it is cool gear, though. Alpha Empire is his really huge club. And you have one of the biggest clubs in the country, man. Very
we had practice with Larry yesterday. Man, wait till that video drops. She would drop it today or tomorrow. He came out. We had a big practice. It was a good turnout. And yeah, it was good.
Stay tuned. That would be on AW Derek on YouTube, is his YouTube channel. We'll be doing this on his channel next week. Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. fake time. But yeah, the awswitch.com. Get yourself some merch, some stickers, some hats. Help the crew. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been The Pulse. You are now caught up on the pulse of the community. We'll see you next week on Derek's channel. Take care, everyone.